Okay, good morning and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. We're a community of people dedicated to choosing spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. And Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. And our promise here is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. As a community, we acknowledge ourselves here on the traditional unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coast Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar fashion, we acknowledge how much of what we know in this country today, including our culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also explicitly name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to all of their labors and sacrifices, and we acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impacts that can still be felt today. And this comes from T.J. Stewart. If you care to, please join us for our opening song in this very room by Ron and Carol Harris.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room.
And we swap it over to Michael, who's going to do the meditation.
Morning. It's a beautiful morning out. I don't know where you are, but it is here. Beautiful. Fall morning, warm. So this morning, each Sunday we set aside a time to kind of settle ourselves in, to center ourselves where we are, and just invite everyone to just kind of set all the things that came before this moment aside, put it on a shelf, put the garbage can, whatever, because you don't need it now. You can always pick it up later. That's your choice. Just allow yourself to be comfortable as you can. If you're seated, if you're lying down, if you're standing, whatever. Allow your body to relax. Your mind to relax. I'm going to do this by taking a nice, few deep cleansing breaths in. So let us breathe in, hold it, and release. Nice deep breath in, hold it, and release. One more time. Nice deep breath in. Leave it and release. And as we're getting comfortable and centering ourselves in the present now, in this very moment, not yesterday, not 5 minutes ago, not this afternoon, but right here where you are. Perfect now. Allow yourself to be at ease and centered. And as you center yourself, just imagine peace. That inner peace that has to start with you. That ease, that peace that is deep within us. Sometimes we allow that peace to slip away. When we get anxious, when we get angry, frustrated. When all these things happen in our lives, the peace seems to disappear. But it is always present. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. So let's focus on that peace. And try to find out where it's living in your body. Is it in your head? In your neck? In your chest? Your abdomen? Your legs? Where can you find that peace in your body? And as you sense that and feel that peace within you, I just invite all of us to allow that peace to spread out to the world around you, maybe your household, your workplace, and then allow it to spread out throughout our country. And this is a time when we need to come together in peace. And when you've done that, send it out to the whole world, to the universe, so that we may come together in that loving peace of the divine that expresses to each and every one of us, each and every moment of each and every day. Sending peace, knowing that peace touches everybody. knowing that peace is alive and well and thrives throughout the universe. I invite us to allow that peace to settle within us. And come back to the room. And when you feel comfortable, open your eyes. And I say, and so it is. That was relaxing. And now for the reading of the day, it's from Don Miguel Ruiz and Janet Heaton Mills. It's to do with personal power. The first and most important of the four agreements is to be impeccable with your word. The word is your power of creation, and that power can be used in more than one direction. One direction is impeccability, where the word creates a beautiful story, your personal heaven on earth. The other direction is misuse of the word, where the word destroys everything around you and creates your personal hell. The word, as a symbol, has the magic and power to create because it can reproduce an image, an idea, a feeling, or an entire story in your imagination. Just hearing the word horse can reproduce an entire image in your mind. That's the power of a symbol. But it can even be more powerful than that. Just by saying two words, the Godfather, a whole movie can appear in your mind. This is your magic, your power of creation, and it begins with the word. Perhaps you can understand why different holy books say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the divine, and the Word was the divine. According to many religions, in the beginning, nothing existed. And the very first thing that the divine created was the messenger, the angel who delivers a message. You may understand the need for something that could transform or transfer information from one place to another. Of course, from nowhere to nowhere seems a little complicated, but it's very simple at the same time. The divine created the Word, and the Word is a messenger. Then if the divine created the Word to deliver a message, and if the Word is a messenger, then that is what you are, a messenger, an angel. The Word exists because of a force that we call life, intent, or divine. The Word is the force. It is the intent, and that's why our intent manifests through the Word, no matter what language we speak. The Word is so important in the creation of everything because the messenger starts to deliver messages, and the entire creation appears out of nowhere. And so it is.
So it is.
So it be.
Hi, baby. Ouch.
So we are going to see a declaration run up on the PowerPoint, and the invitation is to speak it out loud. As you just heard with the word, there is a power in the word, a power in saying it. So please join me.
We are an expanding and loving community, working in a field of
We
are an expanding and loving community, working in a field of
infinite potential.
Finally,
We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential.
so another word that I'm going to invite you to join me in speaking. I try to come up with a chant each month. So this chant relates to power and how we can use our power. So when I retell my victim stories, I stay stuck in blame and shame. Can't I make places for glory, knowing there's so much to gain? When my savior is someone outside me, each step that I take gets lost. When I see the favor inside me, I know I can pay all the costs. My power wants to express. My power can show my best. My power, it shines like the stars. My power takes us so far, takes us so far. So please join in if you like, and if not, know that it'll go by pretty quickly. And it goes from I to you to we to us, and then back to I.
When I retell my victim stories, I stay stuck in blame and shame. Can't I make places of glory, knowing there's so much to gain? When my savior is someone outside me, each step that I take gets lost. When I see the favor inside me, I know I can pay all the costs. My power wants to express. My power can show my best. My power shines like the stars. My power takes us so far, takes us so far. When you retell your victim stories, you stay stuck in blame and shame. Can't you make places for glory, knowing there's so much to gain? When your savior is someone outside you, each step that you take gets lost. When you see the favor inside you, you know you can pay all the costs. Your power wants to express. Your power can show your best. Your power, it shines like the stars. Your power takes us so far, takes us so far.
Now we.
When we tell our victim stories, we stay stuck in blame and shame. Can't we make places for glory, knowing there's so much to gain? When our Savior is someone outside us, each step that we take gets lost. When we see the favor inside us, we know we can pay all the costs. Our power wants to express. Our power can show our best. Our power, it shines like the stars. Our power takes us so far, takes us so far.
And we come back to ourselves.
When I retell my victim stories, I stay stuck in blame and shame. Can't I make places for glory, knowing there's so much to gain? When my Savior is someone outside me, each step that I take gets lost. When I see the favor inside me, I know I can pay all the costs. My power wants to express. My power can show my best. My power, it shines like the stars. My power takes us so far, takes us so far.
Very good. Okay, what will they do?
So before today's message, I have a song that I suspect is going to be familiar to many, many folks. And it comes from the musical, which was an adaptation of Daniel McGuire's book, Wicked.
All right, just see if I find it here. I must find it. Okay. La 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 la. Oh wait. Ah. What? Oh, one moment.
It's in the.
I know, but that's not supposed to come up. Right here. Oh well. Go away. That's not what I want. Okay. Ah, it's got to be in this one.
Can you give a thumbs up if you can hear it?
Well, I don't know if I believe that's true. I know I'm who I am today because I'm like a coin full of water as it passes the sun. Like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if life can change for the better? Because I knew you. I have been changed for good. It will make that we will never again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part from what love is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now I'm away, our stories end. I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea. Like a seed dropped by a sky bird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good, and just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done. You blame me yes, we know there's fame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Always like a shepherd that closes soil without blessing, like a seed caught by a flood in the Lord. You can say I've been changed for the better. I do believe I have been changed for the better. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed.
We did that version for a couple reasons. It's the voices of my daughters, Emily and Elizabeth, singing at a service a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And that way we weren't intruding on a performance with copyright and all of that. And the point of the song, For Good, it's one of the points that I want us to explore in today's talk, looking and exploring at how we use our power. This month, we're thinking about ways that we express our power. Last week, we explored kind of the hiddenness of our power and how power is always operating and we aren't necessarily conscious of it. This week, it's once we pull it into our consciousness, then how do we use it deliberately? And I'm going to propose three things. And, that's not a surprise. I often propose a limited number of things so that we can hold on to them and then try them out and practice them, put them into expression. So the three ways to express our personal power are we can expect to collaborate those that have the same passions that have us. We can express to release our hidden agendas, and we'll get into what that means. And then finally, we can express our power, like we say our words, with integrity and authenticity. The founder of the Science of Mind teachings, the founder of the philosophy that Centers for Spiritual Living grew out of, Ernest Holmes, proposed that we can stand in our power from a place of high watch. Ernest Holmes noted that there is power that is always operating. In that song, For Good, how many times do we find ourselves in relationship? Now, in the case of that, the story of For Good, the one character, Alphaba, the so-called Wicked Witch of the West, ended up being roommates with Glinda, who became, one of the other witches of the West, other witches of Oz. Glinda, the Good Witch. And in the story of Wicked, they end up as roommates in college. What people have we ended up getting stuck with? Glinda is not at all pleased that she got this awkward girl, Alphaba. No. Alphaba is kind of nonplussed by it all because she never really expected to make friends. She's been a green girl growing up, kind of always ostracized, always on the outside. Glinda expected to be at the center. And Glinda, because she was elegant and beautiful, kind of always ended up in the center. And yet here she was shackled with this awkward green girl. And as the story goes on, Glinda is none too pleased at this shackling. Take a moment and think about the times you've gotten shackled to somebody that you would not have necessarily, if you were in a crowd, you would not have necessarily picked them out. who would not have said, I want you in my life. Can you think of a person like that? Can you think of somebody that you got affixed to, or who got affixed to you?
Mhm.
And with that, changes might have happened. When I went to college, I got put in a house with four other folks. And we just were not seeing things eye to eye. They were very casual about things like cleanliness. The notion of cleaning dishes after using them, they were just going to reuse their dishes. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit. Because I kind of thought, well, if I use a plate, I should probably clean it off and wash it. Their idea was they were just going to have their own plate and just keep eating off of it. And in that instance, what that did is it made me find another place to live. So when I got affixed to, I found my own place. Sometimes the people we get affixed to lead us somewhere else. The college didn't expect that I would go somewhere else. They expected that I would just stay where I landed. And I made some great friends. And in meeting those friends, it just so happened that they were all, it was a house of all women. And somehow I fit in better there than I did with the house of all men. Now, needless to say, in retrospect, that probably gives me a better identification with my non-binary identity. That when the world divides by gender, I was a person who experienced the world as larger than just my gender. I wasn't defined or confined by my gender. And yet stepping into that let me become more of myself. It called me to be something better. In the story of Glinda and Elphaba, these unlikely friends called forth things in each other. Glinda was very convinced that it was important. One of the songs that gets sung in Wicked is that it's very important to be popular. And Elphaba was very convinced that it was important to be thoughtful. And in the process, Elphaba found a place of her popularity. She ended up with the male character that was Glinda's heartthrob. At least in the musical. In the book version, the heartthrob ends up with another person, but finds himself continually drawn back to Elphaba because of her intellect, because of her passion, because of her intensity, because of all the things that she believes in. In the song For Good, we can end up in situations, we can end up with people and find that some good is called forward. A good that we might not have expected. So in my case, my good in that housing situation was finding this whole other place where I felt more truly myself. I didn't expect that going to this other place was going to be about finding more about myself. I thought it was going to be about exploring the country. I thought it was going to be understanding a different culture. And it was that, but it was bigger than that. My for good was bigger than what I had imagined. Again, take a moment and think of those relationships that have called something bigger, something beyond what we imagine for ourselves. Ernest Holmes, in his book, How to Use Your Power, proposed, you must understand that there is a power for good, and we must realize that this power flows through us. And the instrument of this power is our own mind. We must begin right where we are, because there is no other place we could begin. We must begin right where we are, because there is no other place we could begin. How many times do we spend our lives, spend our energies wishing that things were different, the people we with were different, the circumstance was different? If we pause, if we take a moment, if we step into a gap before we act, we're able to step more consciously into our power. So that's going to take us to our second point. That notion about our unhidden agendas and using unhidden agendas. Michael shared that first agreement, the use of our word, the use of the power of our word. How often do we go through our lives speaking? We speak to ourselves constantly. It's like a running commentary. Before you got here, Michael was struggling with some things with the computer. That's not something new or different. And Michael has a whole narration about engaging with that. How many of us have a narration about how our day is going? We wake up, we look in the mirror, and it's like, ugh. I don't know about me, none of you, because you're all beautiful, but me, I go in the mirror, I'm like, oh, that's what I have to work with. But the starting point is, that's where I start from. And the notion about the power of our word, that first agreement, the integrity of our word, is catching myself. Oh, look at what I just said about what I'm looking at in the mirror. Oh, look at you beautiful thing, you. People where I work know that I'm very likely, if I overhear something, that I'm very likely to say, hey, I heard you say that this is just like you, you're clumsy, you spilled on yourself. Mm-hmm. And I just have to stop you. Please, just take a moment. I'm saying this from a place of real respect. I want to celebrate all of the ways you are graceful. I want to celebrate all the ways you are the pinnacle of grace in action. So rather than sticking that label clumsy, I want to be an argument against that, and an argument for how much good you are. So what there's coffee on your shirt? There's a magical thing called a Tide stain stick. There's magical things that when we do things that are sloppy, that doesn't define who and what we are. And to a large extent, people kind of are not surprised. I have yet to have anybody say, wait a second, I want to stand in my claim about my being clumsy. I've not had anybody do that to me. And it isn't only clumsy, it can be I was thoughtless, I was
stupid.
And all of those I ams and I was and I will be, all of these are declarations, they are covenants that we are making with the universe. They are agreements with our language. The person that came up with this notion of covenants, agreements, is a teacher of Ernest Holmes, Amare Hopkins. So she foreshadowed Miguel Juan Ruiz. She foreshadowed him in the power of our word. That we are making agreements constantly. So the second part of how to use our power is to recognize what those agreements are. The minister at Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, Kathy Ann Lewis, developed a whole series of actions and courses, and she always started with something that she called an unhidden agenda. And she wanted to start from an unhidden agenda because so often we start from hidden agendas. We don't even know what's gotten us into where we are. But the notion of claiming an unhidden agenda, identifying explicitly what it is that we want, what it is that we're seeking, what it is that we value, flips it on its head. Has anyone not experienced directions, advice that left us feeling forced or manipulated? That sense of being forced or manipulated is related to that hidden agenda. There's a certain way you should be. I grew up feeling a whole list of shoulds. My mom had a very clear sense about what was a good Vaughan. And it wasn't Vaughan back then. It was a very what would entail a good Robbie. And frequently, as we went through what were the qualities of a good Robbie, it was something that was very distant from what I was. And I found that as my mom would say what would constitute my good, I often wanted to rebel. I often wanted to not pursue the features that my mom identified as being good. That was from that place of feeling force, feeling controlled, feeling manipulated. Because it wasn't something I wanted to step into. You know, it would be nice if. I know this might not be your preference, but, and you know the trick in a speech, anytime you hear the word but, everything that preceded it is really, you should pretend that it wasn't spoken at all. I know you're really smart, but. I know you're really kind, but. I know you're really thoughtful, but. All of that ingratiation at the start of I know, but. All of that linguistically, throw it away. It doesn't count because what really matters is what gets said after the but. So with an unhidden agenda, it's about throwing away everything that happens before the but. And accepting what it is that we want. Stepping into our power is declaring our good. It's recognizing our good. And I have this question. What if we trust that our good is assured? What if we embody the notion of nourishing and upholding expectations for good? Our good and the highest good for everybody else whose lives we touch. So what if we make it our unhidden agenda that abundant good is out there waiting for us. What if we play with that? Versus life sucks and an unhidden agenda. Versus nobody cares, or probably the more common internal voice, nobody gives a hoot. The unhidden agenda. I expect good for myself and the highest good for everybody involved. Finally, the third piece that I want to explore about our own power is the idea that everyone can make a difference. That's an unhidden agenda that I won't make a difference. Nothing I do matters. Why bother? The invitation is throw out those unhidden agendas and accept that throw out those hidden agendas and accept the unhidden agenda. Everyone makes a difference. We load ourselves with reasons not to act. We load ourselves with reasons not to go forward. Sherry has acted. She's participated in generating books. She's participated in literature that is out in the world sharing ideas. Reba has participated on forums where misinformation gets undone. We hear so much about misinformation and disinformation. Reba has been an actor for accuracy, for integrity, for finding out steps that make sense rather than going forward. Jeffrey has been someone who's been able to take something that doesn't work and make it into something that does work. I would suspect an unhidden agenda for Jeffrey is, I can look at anything and make it work. I have never heard Jeffrey say, that can't happen. Jeffrey is an embodiment of the unhidden agenda. I can make anything happen. Stephanie, our practitioner here, has a company and she's done all kinds of training, and every day she is this presence of expanding people's consciousness. She has a vision for children and families putting their kids in clothing that's going to enliven them and make them joyful and bring happiness when they put on their clothes. A lot of times kids don't want to get dressed. She has a whole vision about kids longing to put on clothes. That unhidden agenda is that rather than feeling icky when I'm dressed, I'm going to feel great when I'm dressed. Stephanie was part of a ball last week where she was ravishing. Where she was able to stand out because others went to Amazon and they all got the same thing to be part of the ball. But Stephanie was not going to be like anybody else. She had this vision, and I would say this vision comes from her unhidden agenda of, I embody creativity. I am a powerful agent of creation. Everyone can and does make a difference. One of the people that the writers for this week wanted to use as an illustration for this point is Rosa Parks. And I was a little irritated because they said that Rosa Parks kind of ended up inadvertently as part of the civil rights movement. And I was like, I bristled because it's like Rosa Parks was not in any way, shape, or form inadvertent. Rosa Parks was somebody who knew her own experience of having been bullied, of having been oppressed. People know that she was tired when she was sitting on that bus, that they were saying, you have to move your butt because a white person gets to sit there. She did not move her butt because she was tired physically from her job. She was tired of generation upon generation upon generation of oppression. She was tired for it, and she was just not going to stand up and let somebody else sit down because their ancestors said, I have a right to that seat. And the bus driver said, I'm going to have to call the police. And she said, I guess you are. And this was the same bus driver who had driven past her in the rain. So she knew that this was a bus driver who was not particularly caring or thoughtful. Rosa Parks was not in any way, shape, or form an inadvertent happenstance. Rosa Parks was someone who very deliberately, she had been part of the NAACP for years. She was the secretary, and she said, I didn't even really like doing secretary stuff, but I was the woman there. And so it landed on me to be the secretary. And I asked, well, shouldn't one of you do it? No, you're doing a really good job. That might have been inadvertent because that wasn't what she wanted, but that's where she landed. And with that, in that place, she was somebody who had stood up against the injustice of rape against Black women by white policemen. She had stood up against oppression. We've all probably heard the story about the beachscape filled with starfish that had been washed ashore. Sometimes it's a little boy with a bucket who's collecting the starfish and then throwing them back out. Sometimes it's a story of a fiancé who's going on the beach side. Yeah, that one person can't get every single starfish on the beach. There's too many. And when they're asked, well, what difference does it make? You just threw that starfish. It's, the kid and the fiance and everybody says, it's not what difference does it make in the whole picture. It made a difference for this starfish. This starfish is now back in the water. And this starfish is now back in the water. Each one of us is working with an individual starfish and making a difference. Do we bother to look at the differences we're making? Or do we just stay in that unhidden agenda of, I don't make a difference? So there's three main things that I'm inviting us to do this week in that notion of it's for good. Sometimes we end up in situations, sometimes we end up with people, and we're like, what is this for? Let's assume it's for good. Let's assume that we can make a difference in their lives and they're making a difference in our lives. The difference in my life is I ended up in a different house with different people. And with those different people, I discovered parts of myself that I never expected to see. What is the difference? What is the for good that comes to you, that's coming to you? That second piece of our unhidden agendas. What are we going to claim? What are we going to name? What are we going to pursue? What are we going to let it become conscious rather than continuing forward unconsciously? Let's make our unhidden agendas. And finally, let's recognize that everyone does make a difference. So we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. I've got a personal affirmation, which I didn't give Michael, and it's easy enough that I think you can all catch on to it. You don't need to see it. I stand in my personal power. I stand in my personal power as a presence for good. As a presence for good. I stand in my personal power as a presence for good. I stand in my personal power as a presence for good. Now, we are going to go to our offertory pronouncement. Michael's going to pull it up on the screen.
Maybe.
And we're gonna share this together.
There it is. Aha.
And this, I want you to hear it as an affirmation. I am rich. I am prosperous. Money flows to me freely and copiously from many channels. Spirit is the source of all my good. I give abundantly as I have already received, and so it is. So if you want, you can make a donation. If you're online, we've got PayPal, we've got Venmo, we've got a variety of things online, so you can go there. And Reba is taking the basket and sending it around. And while that's happening, I have a song to close out our message today.
I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. I got the power, you.
Oops. Yeah, I don't know why that's not showing, but we got the words anyway.
Got the power, we got the power. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. I've got the power to make all my dreams come true. I've got the power, there's nothing I can't do. I've got the power to be anything I want. I've got the power inside of me. I've got the power inside of me. Every day I'm wasting my time thinking that someone else is gonna do it all for me. I've got to get up, get it, just get started. Take one step towards my destiny. I'll define my direction with clear-cut attention. Clear what will be and what should come to be. 'Cause I've got the power to make all my dreams come true. I've got the power, there's nothing I can't do. I've got the power to be anything I want. I've got the power inside of me. I've got the power inside of me. There are days when I feel that I'm just no good. Days when I don't even want to try. But when I stop, look and listen and surrender, I hear a voice of truth I cannot deny. And it says, you know you can do it. Just get down to it. Have faith in yourself and just will to see it through. 'Cause I've got the power to make all my dreams come true. I've got the power, there ain't nothing I can't do. I've got the power to be anything I want. I've got the power. I got it. I got the power inside. Oh, there's nothing I can't do. 'Cause I got the power. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. Yeah. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. Yeah. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. Every single day, you just got to say, I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. Power! Talking about power, yeah. I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. Every single day, you just got to say, I got the power, you got the power, we got the power. Power!
Whoa.
Okay, and now we are moving over to the time of the service where we are going to call out the last of the requests for the month. So I already got one from Isha, and I got one from Scott, who has us in the mix. I believe that we have it from Reba here.
Yes, yeah.
And we have it from Jeffrey. I don't know if Shuri or Stephanie were able to send in their requests on the chat. I'm seeing that Stephanie is shaking her head yes, and I can't see from Shuri because her cell phone is not picturing her. So we are going to go through a process where we people in the room pull out the things, and then those that are left will give those out. So you don't have the same experience of getting to pick from the basket, but someone picks from the basket for you. So I am picking. Okay, I have got mine that I'll be holding on a daily basis. So Scott, I am holding your request. So I'll be reflecting on that through my days this coming month.
Oh, okay.
That's much appreciated. Thank you.
And okay, I'm trying to get Stephanie's here. Oh, what happened? Oh, I see. Oh.
And Jeffrey has given his, and he has received one, and Reba has given hers, and she has received one, and I believe Michael has done the same. So those that are, you will be getting yours via electronically. So be on the lookout. And one of the things that years ago Michael talked about with having the other person's prayer request is that it really expands. It's like my comment about the for good. Those things that, I might not have been looking for what Scott was looking for. However, as I reflect on this on a daily basis, that this notion of being persistently, that I'm going to have a persistent way of being now because this is what Scott is wanting. So I get to open and be bigger because of what Scott is holding, has identified to the universe that Scott wants to receive more. So Scott's experience gets to expand my life. And Michael, do you want to put up the announcements?
In a minute here. Okay. You're going to do the announcements? Good.
Yes.
Oh, that's a switch. That's a holy switch.
Well, that way you can persist with what
Holy
you're doing.
switch, Batman. I think this is what I'm doing, what I want. There you go, dude.
So, this is Prayer Exchange Sunday, or Intention Exchange Sunday, or Desire Exchange Sunday, however way you want to frame it, in case people take umbrage with the notion of prayer. Next Saturday is a big day. There's a bunch of stuff happening. From 9 till noon is the accountability group that Stephanie leads. And I would normally be there, however, I also have a conference that is happening remotely, and I don't know how I can do the remotely and the accountability group at one time. So I will send my good vibes. And I know that the accountability group that Stephanie is doing will be awesome.
And that's here.
Stephanie, do you want to say anything about it?
Sure.
Oh.
Good morning, all. The accountability group is a group for all people to come, and we're working on whatever it is we're choosing to have manifest in our lives. So I'm working on getting the business that Reverend Vaughan talked about. We have 2 other people that are working on writing their books. And Reverend Vaughan, you want to share what you're working on?
Yeah, I'm working on that. How I engage in my work as a school psychologist and my work as a team lead is coming from a place of love. And my recent this past month is how to come from a place of efficiency, because there's so many pieces and I can get clogged down in all of those pieces. And it's like how to cut through it and be efficient in that. So that's what I'm working on.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, so it's a time for us to come together. We pray for each other. We have different little exercises that I come up with, and we keep each other accountable.
Hence the name.
It's usually a daily check-in to see what's going. Are you doing what you're doing, or what you asked for prayer around? And so it's a really good group. We've been going for a while, and all are invited. It is an in-person type of work session, and it happens at the church. So if you want any other information, just contact the church, and they'll contact me, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Okay.
So the second thing that's happening that day, so that's from 9 till noon, and then from 3:30 to 5, there is a pottery session for all interested folks. And we are going to be going to 3333 Rainier Avenue South at Emerald City Fire Arts. And the way that will work is that we will select a piece, and then we will have a bit of time to paint on that piece. And then that piece will be fired for us, and they will call us when those pieces are finished. So we will paint. We won't necessarily have them finished that day because the firing process does take some time.
Yes.
So that's going to happen on the afternoon, and then folks who are interested will go out and have something to eat. And then we're going to have Halloween on October 31st, and we're going to be planting ourselves out front of the building here, so that passing there last year we saw a whole bunch of kids passing by, but none of them kind of delved into the dark, scary parking lot